Hey, what's up everyone? Today I'm going to be taking care of my power steering leak on the Altima. Let's go. Got the tire off, and you can see this is a wreck under here. The boot's torn. There's the power steering pump, and I believe that's where it's leaking. So I'm gonna degrease this because it's gross, and keep going. Now we're talking. With this cleaned up, I'm gonna go ahead and start removing the hose. Okay, so I saw some extra fluid leaking out of the power steering pump some other places, so I got a helper. Say hi, William.
Hey.
And he's gonna move the steering wheel while I check for leaks on the power steering pump. Okay, so let this thing sit overnight, and it's still leaking. It's leaking right about here. Wish there's a gasket that runs around the back of that connection there, and I think it's dripping out of there. And there's the high side line and the clip that I can't get off, and that's the high pressure line and the pump. So I'm thinking the pump itself might be bad, which with the axle out, I mean, I can see it clearly. That big hole is where the axle comes through. I have no idea how you would even change your power steering pump without taking your axle out. I just think it's impossible. There's an adjustment screw right there, and the screw that holds the pump in is behind the pump. There. Not the small 10 mil, but the big one behind it. And I'm gonna try to take the whole pump out, because I'm still trying to take the pressure line off, which I don't even know if it's really leaking. So yeah, that's my only move, is to just pull this out and I guess replace it. Replace this pump and the pressure line. Trying to get these shots for everyone. So here is the pump from the back side. But there it is. That's the back of the power steering pump, and that is the bolt to take the power steering pump out. Right there. I don't know what size. Looks like a 14. But I'm gonna try to get that out. Here's what we did. Got my socket on there. It is a 14. And then I used this breaker bar up onto my socket and fed it from underneath the Y pipe here straight up, and it's above that. So flipped back around, we're gonna need to loosen that adjustment bolt there. Once I got the top bolt out, the whole assembly popped out, and now I got some movement here with that bolt in the back being loose. I'm able to just take the belt off. But all that's left is to loosen this bolt back here, and this thing should pop out. When it pops down, I'm gonna remove this hose and then work on the upper high pressure hose. But I'm gonna remove it when it's down so I can hopefully drain this properly and not pour it all over everything I just spent all that time degreasing. So let's see what it looks like when it comes out. Okay, so the pump is down. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the rest of these lines. Again, I thought I was just gonna do the high pressure line, which was this thing. I needed a wrench. I couldn't find a wrench, but you know, when I saw it pooling that fluid at the bottom of the pump, I'm assuming it's more than the high pressure line. I already bought the line. I know they're prone to failure. I'm just gonna replace it anyways. But again, I'm just trying to get this pump out, and I'm gonna replace the whole power steering pump. This is right where the axle should be, so I have no idea how this is possible without taking the axle out. If you guys know, let me know. But until then, I'm gonna keep moving forward. So yeah, that's a lot easier to take out if this thing is still bolted to something. I had to wedge it in between this tie rod and the frame. It's pretty dumb. This whole thing's pretty dumb, but that was extra dumb. There it is. Alright, just a quick look at the pump as it sits. So that looks real bad. I'm assuming is leaking from here. This was the main bolt that held it in. That fed in from here. Okay, and then here's a close-up of the bracket. It was orientated like that, so I had to completely remove this, and then this bracket came off, removed this from the back. That's what allowed the whole pump to drop down. But yeah, I mean, just looking at it, all this up here, it's definitely leaking. Up top, the hose runs from the power steering up behind the manifold, and it hits a bolt right here. Mine doesn't have a bolt, but that's the hose. And there's a bolt there. I think it'd be a 10mm. Mine doesn't have one, so great. I don't have to mess with it. If you're doing yours, check there on the top. And next I'll go to the other side, right under the intake there. So for the last connector, for the high pressure line, I removed the intake tube, and it is right down there. I'm basically just gonna sit on the motor here and stick my arm down there to try to get it out. That one. It's 14mm. One more thing holding the power steering hose on. That guy. So that's the high pressure hose. Not this one. The hose behind it. And there's a bracket there I'm shining the light on. And then it transitions over to that hard metal tubing that goes to where I just disconnected it. So I feel like there's a 10mm bolt on the back of that. So I'm gonna try a socket or something to get in there. But this car's ridiculous. That's all I gotta say about that. You know, just chilling, taking it easy. I thought you only had to like climb on your motor if you had a big 4-wheel drive truck or something. Nah, I'm up here because of 10mm bolt. And I just dropped my socket. So, the VQ is pretty nice, but definitely second guessing transverse V6 engines. Definitely. I got it. Well, there it is. Looking at this bracket here, I pulled 2 bolts out of here. I should have just pulled this one. And then that would have came off. But all I could feel was those, so I ended up pulling the whole bracket out. Whoops. And there's the sensor. I gotta move that over, and you can see this thing's pretty sure it's leaking. I'm gonna cut the jacket off, see if I can see if it's leaking from anywhere inside. So I cut the jacketing off. I didn't see anything in the actual tube, the hose itself, that looked like it was leaking, but it was definitely you know, you saw it, a lot of grease around this area. So I don't know if maybe this was leaking somehow or what. But I'm gonna take this sensor off. 27mm deep well. Fits right on there. I have to step on this and pop that off. So this was ridiculously tight. I had to wedge it in between these stepping stones in front of my house so that I could hold it to get the leverage to turn this. I don't know what that's torqued to, but I guess I'll do the same thing to put it on the new one, because if it's got to be that tight, it's a trip. The kit I got from Napa for this line, this new line, it comes with this set of O-rings and brass washers. So the small O-ring is for this side. Let's replace this one. And then the larger O-ring is going to go onto that sensor. The brass washers are for the banjo bolt connections on the power steering pump. So, good stuff. It's got some little directions in here, but I'm just going to swap those over. Okay, so I got the high pressure line back in. It was kind of a bit of a puzzle to thread it back under, you know, around the motor mounts. I fed it in from the passenger wheel well and then threaded it into the assembly on the driver's side, that steering assembly there. After that, I put the bracket on. So it wasn't until I got everything in place I was able to get the bracket and snug things up one at a time. Right now I'm at a standstill. I don't have any parts. I got the power steering pump on order and the axle on order. So the car's gonna get taken off the jack stands and left alone until I get those parts in and I can start back up.